Who really benefits from reparations talk? Welcome once again to Spin Cycle America, where we talk about what is happening in the world today. We try to stay down the middle in our conversations. Sometimes we tend to drift to one side or the other. I'm your host, Todd. Let's get started. We're going to continue our conversations on reparations. So, hey everyone, again, welcome to day 5 of our week-long series on reparations. So we've covered the historical unfairness, the massive practical problems, the constitutional barriers, and real alternatives that could actually help people. So today, we're asking a tougher question. Who really benefits from keeping reparations as a constant political demand? So there's a growing grievance industry, if you know what that means. It's an organization, politicians, academics, and activists who profit from radical division and perpetual victims. This isn't about helping everyday black Americans. It's often about power, money, and influence. So with that in mind, who do reparations really help? I mean, we talk about how bad this could destroy our economy. We mentioned that yesterday. And disrupt our legal system. We talked about that yesterday. By trying or tying up the courts over legal battles. So what is this? So what is the grievance industry? So let's talk about that. Let's get more in depth. So the grievance industry refers to the network of nonprofit advocacies groups, academics, and politicians who build careers and raise billions by emphasizing systematic racism and historical grievances. Now just think about what I just said right there. These are people who have their hands in a pot that shouldn't or should they shouldn't have their hands in those pots. These are groups we need to watch out for. These are groups that are actually just trying to cause problems. These are groups that are just trying to have power, to get power. They don't care where they get it from. They don't care who they hurt. They just want power. Groups like the NAACP, certain BLM-related organizations, and Reparation Task Force keep the issue alive. They raise massive funds, secure government grants, and gain political power. That's all they want, power. They don't care who they hurt. They don't care who they step on. They just want the power. They just want to hurt people. For example, some organizations have collected tens of millions of donations with limited, transparent results for average families. University programs and diversity, equity, and inclusion offices employ thousands of highly paid administrators pushing these narratives. Politicians use reparation rhetoric to energize specific voter bases and justify bigger government spending. Think about it. We're trying to get rid of bigger government spending. The bigger the government, the more your taxes go. The higher your taxes go. Do you want big government? I'm thinking not. This is, in many cases, just enough to get your vote. So that's what they're looking for. The power to grab your vote. They don't want anything else. They want the power. They want to encourage you or force you to vote for them because they will not tell you in the long run or in the long term the wrong ramifications of reparations. They won't tell you what it's going to do to our economy. They won't say much more than that or how it's going to divide this country or in the long run how it's going to destroy it. The pattern is clear. The louder the demand, the more funding and attention flow and activists and leaders at the top. Not necessarily to the working class black families who face real daily challenges. No, think about it. So think about that. Is that really going to help you as an individual, as an American? So follow the money, the elite capture. Now think about that. The elite capture. So this is what economics call the elite capture. The people who benefit most are often the wealthy, well-connected elite, not the people they claim to represent. Are you kidding me? Why do you think if you look on X, you're seeing the middle class or the lower income always fighting? They don't care about you guys. They don't care about any of us. Think about it. If they did, they would put the law enforcement out there. They would force the law enforcement. They wouldn't put a stifle. They wouldn't put handcuffs on ICE or any other law enforcement. If they really wanted to prevent what's going on out there, they wouldn't stifle them. Think about that for a minute. The elite and the wealthy, that's all they want. Reparations studies and commissions create jobs for consultants, researchers, and bureaucrats. Purple focus on systematic racism as the main explanation distracts from uncomfortable data on family structure, education choices, and personal responsibility that we discovered, or discussed, I should say, on day 4. So think about that. Some of this stuff we have already talked about on day 4. Many of the same leaders live very comfortable lives while telling their audience that America is irredeemable, racist, and that only massive wealth transfers can fix it. So what they're saying is that in order for this to be fixed is that you have to become wealthy. You have to become rich. Is that true? Think about it. Really? Do you really believe that? Can wealth fix this problem or make it worse? I mean, think about it. What do you really want? Or what do you... I mean, that's going to split us right down the middle. So think about that. Look at what the mayor of New York City is doing. Taxing the whites more because they make more money, because they are wealthier. But is that going to actually solve the problem? Is that going to fix that problem? Probably not. Most likely, probably not. Okay? You may see a mass exodus of New York. Now who is left to fit that bill? Who's going to pay the taxes for New York once those people leave, when they realize that they're getting taxed more? They'll pack up their bags and they'll move south to Florida. You're back in the same problem you had to begin with. And now New York becomes a ghost town. You can't pick on one race and call it good. Amendment 14 tells us we all have to be treated equally. That's what 14th Amendment means. It was created right after the Civil War for this very same purpose. Meanwhile, ordinary black Americans who are working hard, building businesses, and raising stable families get left behind in the narrative. The black middle class had grown substantially over decades, but you rarely hear celebration of that progress. Tell me the last time you heard the Democrats or anybody celebrating that progress or seeing it on the news or any place. Tell me. I'll wait. That's it. That's all you hear is cricket, because progress undercuts the need for more grievance funding. And you have the Democrats and the wealthy yelling reparations and yelling the loudest so they get heard. Remember, I mentioned that in a couple other videos and podcasts earlier. The person that yells the loudest gets heard. So the real victims of this approach Here's who they are. The biggest losers are the everyday people, young black men trapped in cycles of fatherlessness and crime, kids stuck in failing schools while choice programs are opposed by powerful interest groups. Think about that. If you look at most of your democratic cities and states, they oppose school choice. Why? Answer that question and figure out why. That's to hold people down. The schools are failing us. We have people that can't read or write at a fourth grade level. How sad is that? We need to fix the problem. If you think I'm wrong, prove me wrong. Hardworking families who get painted in perpetual victims instead of being empowered. People, we got to take that power back. We got to have to be empowered. But that's the problem. The wealthy and those in power are keeping us down. And I don't care what your race, color, creed, religion, background is, it's keeping us all down. By keeping focus on reparations and distant history, the industry discourages the cultural and behavioral changes that actually close gaps. I'll say that again. By keeping focus on reparations and distant history, the industry discourages the cultural and behavioral changes that actually closes gaps. Think about that for a minute, people. Come on, we gotta get this right. MLK would be probably rolling over in his grave right now. It also breeds resentment among other Americans who feel unfairly blamed, further dividing this country, splitting us right down the middle. That's all it's going to do. You think hate is now, it's going to grow worse. Reparation, that is what's making it worse. You have one group blaming the other. Most of us, none of us were around during the Civil War. None of us, hardly, if any, have ancestors from the Civil War. You look it up. You do not have anybody that dates back to the Civil War. Most of your relatives, I guarantee you, is from European descent or came over after the Civil War. I promise you that. We need as American citizens is actually to stand up and voice our opinions on what is right and wrong and what makes sense. And this does not make sense. If you look and do the research, you will find that reparation is wrong. One of the core arguments for reparation is lineage. Now let me explain this, and I'm going to explain this and go more into depth in this in my next episode, day 6. The idea that today's black Americans are directly connected to those who were enslaved, so some may pay, some must pay. But here's the reality, and the reason I'm bringing this up is somebody made a comment on one of my podcasts videos the other day about lineage. Let me explain this. But here's the reality for all Americans. The vast majority of us living today do not have close ancestral ties to the slavery or Civil War era. I'm going to say that again, just in case you missed it. Most of us so here's the reality. Most or the vast majority of us living today do not have close ancestral ties to the slavery or Civil War era. And in case you missed it, there were blacks who owned slaves as well during the Civil War. There's over 360 white Union soldiers that died freeing the slaves. Now you tell me how reparations is going to solve this problem. Talk about hitting the courts. There you go. I will cover more on this again tomorrow in tomorrow's episode, as well as if you go to my last few days and day 1, it's also covered more in depth also. A better way, individual empowerment. And this is what I keep talking about, and this is what I mentioned earlier, is real leaders focus on solutions. Think about that. Real leaders focus on solutions. I don't know how many times in my videos I've mentioned about solutions. If there's a problem, you focus on the solutions. Nobody, not one, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, nobody has come up with a solution. Not one. Not a solid person has mentioned a solution. Strong families, excellent education, safety, and personal agencies. These all lift people up without requiring anyone else to be labeled as oppressors. School choice does that. Putting more law enforcement on the street does that. For safety. Helping people stay together. Creating a family bond. Education. We should celebrate progress and build on what works rather than manning historical pain for modern political and financial gain. Think about it. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I am not. You look at those people that are sitting there, and every time you go into X or any of these other places, and they're always putting people down, saying you can't do it. Instead, we have leaders in one party that is persistent in keeping down one group of individuals. If I'm wrong, I'll eat my hat. And here's an example. They tell you that you can't or are not capable of getting an ID for voting. Are you serious? Give me a break. Biden quoted once, "If you don't vote for me, you ain't black." Really? You tell me that those are not racist remarks, and yet we have people jumping onto those bandwagons there because nobody is actually doing any research and finding out what is holding them back. Gentlemen and people, ladies and gentlemen, find out what is holding you back. Why are you going that direction? Think about it for once. So the point is, people need to think for themselves and not let others do the thinking. This is what the Democrats try to do, is hold people down. And I'm not saying just black. They do it to the whites, they do it to the Asians, they do it to anybody that does not believe in what they believe in. And you've seen that over the past 5, 6 years, 10 years. You've seen that. Think about it. I am not saying to listen only to the Republicans or the independents. I am not. But what I am saying is listen to both sides of the table and then go with what you believe. And I mean what you believe, not what your leader necessarily says. Because everybody sits there and falls into one category or the other. Well, my leader said this. Well, okay, so your leader said that, but do you believe that? Do you believe what he or she said? Just because they say it does not believe it's true. It may not be true. So think about it before you act, before you put pen to paper, before you jump on TikTok and say, well, da-da-da-da-da, or before you jump on X and say this. So in conclusion, the reparation push isn't just bad policy. For many at the top, it's good business, but it comes at the expense of real unity and progress. It divides the country. And division of the country is easier to control than the masses. So what I'm saying by that statement there is if you divide the country and split them into small groups, then they're easy to control you. It's like if you divide your cattle up, it's easier to control than if you were to sit there and try and herd 100 cows. It's easier to control a smaller herd. Think about it. Why do you think they do that? They're trying to divide us. So let me ask you this here. So what do you think? Is it the constant focus on reparations that is helping, or is it hurting? Drop your respectful thoughts in the comments. This is day 5. Tomorrow on day 6, we're going to compare reparation claims to other historical wrongs in America. If this series has been eye-opening, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow on Spin Cycle America. You all have an outstanding day.